We've all seen this movie before, haven't we? The sweating, the frantic all caps posts at 3 a.m., the lawyers quitting faster than you can say obstruction. But I'm here to tell you, this time, the vibe is different. The classified documents leak isn't just a political headache. It is a Category 5 hurricane tearing the roof off the MAGA luxury suite. I've told you for years, everything he touches dies. And right now, he is holding onto the third rail of national security with both hands. And the sparks are flying everywhere. The panic you are seeing from his inner circle, it isn't performative this time. It's real. They know the bill has finally come due. So, pour yourself a drink, pull up a chair, and let me tell you exactly why the walls aren't just closing in, they're crumbling on top of them. I have spent 30 years in this business. I have seen scandals that would make a billy goat puke. I have seen campaigns implode over a misplaced word, a bad photo op, or a skeleton falling out of a closet at the worst possible moment. But what I am watching right now with this classified documents leak is not just a scandal. It is a catastrophic systems failure of the entire MAGA apparatus. And frankly, I knew this day was coming. I told you this day was coming. You cannot treat the secrets of the United States government like they are cocktail napkins you stuffed in your pocket after a night at the disco and expect the intelligence community to just shrug it off. See, there is a fundamental rule in Washington that I learned when I was just a kid, starting out in the chaotic trenches of Florida politics. You can mess with the donors and you might get cut off. You can mess with the press and you will get bad headlines. But you do not mess with the security apparatus of the United States. You do not treat classified material like it is your personal property or a bargaining chip for your next real estate deal. The people who spend their lives in the shadows protecting the realm, they have a very low tolerance for this kind of cavalier mishandling of the crown jewels. And Donald knows this. Deep down in that reptile brain of his, he knows he crossed a line that his usual bluster cannot erase. When I look at the sheer volume of what is leaking out, it staggers the mind. We are not talking about a love letter from Kim Jong-un anymore. We are talking about the kind of stuff that gets people quietly disappeared in other countries. And the reaction from his camp, it is pure, unadulterated panic. I recognize the smell of it. It is the smell of a campaign staff realizing that there is no spin room big enough to contain the fallout. They are out there trying to flood the zone, trying to distract you with culture war nonsense, screaming about stoves or M&Ms or whatever the outrage du jour is, but it is not working. The gravity of this situation is pulling everything down into a black hole. I remember back in the day, if a candidate even accidentally mishandled a confidential memo, it was a week of apologies and groveling. Here, we have boxes of material that belongs in a secure facility sitting next to a spare pair of golf shoes. And the hubris required to do that, to think you are above the clearance levels, above the law, above the very concept of national security, is exactly why I have been warning you about this man since 2015. He does not see the presidency as a duty. He sees it as an acquisition. And he thinks the files came with the lease. Now, the MAGA world is trying to circle the wagons, but the wagons are on fire. You see these surrogates on television, and their eyes are darting around. They are sweating under the lights because they know they are defending the indefensible. They are twisting themselves into pretzels trying to explain why it is okay for him to have these documents while screaming about everyone else. It is the hypocrisy that always gets me. If a Democrat had done a tenth of this, Fox News would have melted down into a puddle of radioactive sludge by now. But because it is their dear leader, they have to pretend it is just a paperwork error. It is not a paperwork error. It is a fundamental breach of trust. And here is the kicker, the part that really keeps me up at night laughing at the absurdity of it all. He didn't have to do this. He could have just walked away, played golf, and grifted his supporters for a library he will never build. But his ego wouldn't let him. He had to keep the trophies. He had to have the leverage and that need, that deep, insatiable need to be the guy with the secrets, is exactly what walked him right into this trap. He built the trap himself, timber by timber, and now he is surprised the door slammed shut. I look at the polling, I look at the focus groups, and even the diehards are getting tired. They are exhausted. They don't want to defend him on this. They want to talk about inflation or the border or whatever fear-mongering tactic works best on a Tuesday, but they are forced to talk about boxes in a bathroom. And that exhaustion is dangerous for him. When your own people are tired of defending your mistakes, you are in the danger zone. And let me tell you, my friends, the danger zone is exactly where Donald Trump lives, but this time, he forgot his parachute. This leak is the tear in the fabric. It is the moment where the reality of his sloppiness crashes headfirst into the rigid steel of the federal legal system. And no amount of all caps posting on his knockoff social media site is going to fix that. I've been watching the specific frequency of the panic emanating from Mar-a-Lago, and it is hitting a pitch that only dogs and frantic defense attorneys can hear. You have to understand the psychology of the man to understand the reaction. When a normal political figure gets caught in a jam, let's say, a standard issue ethics violation or a messy donor situation, the instinct is preservation through silence. You shut up. You let the professionals handle it. You stay off the radar until the news cycle churns onto the next shiny object. But Donald, that is not how he is wired. His instinct isn't preservation, it's destruction. He doesn't want to weather the storm. He wants to be the storm. And that is exactly what we are seeing right now. He is lashing out at everyone and anyone within striking distance. It doesn't matter if you have been loyal to him for 5 minutes or 5 years. If he feels cornered, you are nothing more than ballast to be thrown overboard to keep his balloon afloat a few seconds longer. I have seen this dynamic play out 1,000 times with him. He demands absolute, feudal loyalty from the people around him. He wants you to bend the knee, kiss the ring, and debase yourself on national television, but loyalty flows only one way in his world, and that is up. The moment you become a liability or even just a reminder of a mistake he made, you are gone. You are erased. This leak has him spooked in a way I haven't seen since the early days of the Mueller probe, but this is worse because the evidence is physical, it's tangible, and because he can't bully the documents into changing their story, he is bullying his own team. I'm hearing whispers, and in this town, whispers are usually just screams waiting for a microphone, that the mood inside his camp is absolutely toxic. Lawyers are looking for the exits. Aides are terrified to walk into the room because they don't know if they are going to get a glass of Diet Coke or a subpoena thrown at them. It is a bunker mentality, but the bunker is made of gold leaf and cheap drywall, and everybody knows the walls are thin. He is flailing. That is the only word for it. He is trying to find a narrative that sticks, but nothing is sticking. One day he says the documents were planted. The next day he says he declassified them with his mind, like he is some kind of Jedi Knight of obstruction. The day after that, he says they are his personal mementos. It is a frantic, incoherent spray of excuses, and it tells me that he is terrified. He knows that the usual tricks, the delay, the deflection, the whataboutism aren't working on the special counsel. Jack Smith isn't a cable news pundit. He can intimidate on Twitter. He is a prosecutor who looks like he eats barbed wire for breakfast, and Donald knows he can't talk his way out of this one. So what does he do? He turns the cannons on his own ship. He starts leaking against his own people. He starts suggesting that maybe his lawyers gave him bad advice, or that the movers packed the wrong boxes. It is the classic behavior of a man who has never taken responsibility for a single thing in his 70-plus years on this earth. It is always someone else's fault. It is always a conspiracy. It is always a witch hunt. But deep down, the grift is getting harder to maintain. You can only ask people to suspend their disbelief so many times before the cable snaps. And look at what this is doing to the broader MAGA ecosystem. These poor folks in the right-wing media bubble, they don't know which way is up anymore. They wake up in the morning ready to defend him, but the talking points change every hour. They are getting whiplash trying to keep up with his excuses. It's almost tragic in a way, watching them twist themselves into knots to justify why national secrets were sitting in a shower stall. They are exhausting their own credibility to defend a man who would trade them for a hamburger if the price was right. I also think about the donors in all of this. The smart money, and I use that term loosely when talking about the GOP these days, is looking at this spectacle and closing the checkbook. They see a candidate who is not focused on winning, but on staying out of court. They see a campaign that isn't a campaign, it's a legal defense fund masquerading as a political movement. And they are tired of paying the legal bills for a billionaire who claims he is really rich, but is constantly rattling the tin cup. The mistreatment of their generosity has become too obvious to ignore. This lashing out, this erratic, terrified behavior, it's the death rattle of his political invincibility. He used to be the Teflon Don, where nothing stuck. Now, he's like flypaper, everything is sticking to him, and the more he thrashes, the more entangled he gets. He is alienating the few competent professionals he has left, leaving him with a circle of sycophants and enablers who are just as delusional as he is, and that is a recipe for disaster. When you remove all the people who know how to say no or Mr. President, that is a felony. You are left with a speeding car and no brakes. And right now, we are all just watching it careen toward the cliff edge while he screams at the passengers for not cheering loud enough. You have to appreciate the irony of the Republican Party right now. For decades, the GOP brand was built on a foundation of law and order. We were the party of the stern father, the party that backed the blue, the party that treated national security with a religious reverence. If you so much as jaywalked while holding a government secrets folder back in the Reagan years, we would have had your head on a pike before the evening news. But now I look at the party I spent my life building, and it is unrecognizable. It has become a protection racket for one man's ego, and this classified documents mess is exposing the rot in a way that nothing else has. The silence you are hearing from the serious national security hawks, the few that are left anyway, is deafening. Behind closed doors, I talk to these people. I talk to the consultants, the old school senators, the donors who remember what the party used to be. And let me tell you, they are horrified. They look at the photos of boxes stacked in a bathroom or spilled out on a floor, and they feel sick. They know exactly what those markings mean. They know the damage this does to our intelligence networks, to our assets on the ground who risk their lives. But then they walk out in front of a camera and the spine dissolves. They mumble something about a double standard or try to pivot to Hunter Biden's laptop because they are terrified of the base. They are terrified of the monster they helped create. This is the trap they are in. The MAGA base, the folks who go to the rallies and buy the flags, they don't care about the SCIF or the Espionage Act. They have been fed a diet of conspiracy and grievance for so long that they believe the deep state is out to get their hero. So when the leak drops and the details are damning, the base gets angry. But the leadership gets an ulcer. They know this is a losing issue in a general election. You cannot win the suburbs. You cannot win the independent women. You cannot win the rational middle of the country by defending the hoarding of nuclear secrets. It is a political suicide pact, and they have all signed it in blood. And look at the timing. Just when the Republicans wanted to go on offense, just when they wanted to talk about the economy or the border, they are forced to play defense for Donald's mishandling of documents. It sucks all the oxygen out of the room. Every interview with a GOP congressman starts with, "Did you see the indictment? Do you think it's appropriate to keep war plans in a ballroom?" They hate it. They absolutely hate it. I have friends in the Senate who would rather walk barefoot over broken glass than answer another question about Donald Trump's legal woes. But they have no choice. He is the sun around which their miserable little planets orbit. And right now, the sun is going supernova. And the funova, the grift, is also a huge part of this ecosystem. Immediately after the news breaks, the emails go out. They are coming for me. Donate $5 to stop the witch hunt. And the sad reality is the money pours in. He takes advantage of these people's fears. He takes their fixed incomes and he funnels it right into his legal defense. It is a massive extraction of wealth from the grassroots of the party directly into the pockets of high-priced lawyers. And that leaves the actual party machinery, the RNC, the state parties, the down-ballot candidates starved for cash. He is like a parasite that is eating the host alive, and the host is thanking him for the privilege. I used to tell people that the GOP was a shark, always moving, always eating. Now, it's a lemming. They are following him right off the edge, and even as they are falling, they are arguing about whether gravity is a liberal hoax. This document leak is the moment where the rubber meets the road. You can spin a lot of things. You can spin a bad debate performance. You can spin a policy failure, but you cannot spin the Espionage Act. The statutes are clear. The evidence is overwhelming. And the Republicans are shackled to a candidate who is arguably facing the most serious legal peril of any former president in history. It is a tragedy of their own making. They had so many off-ramps. They could have convicted him in the second impeachment and been done with him. They could have rallied around a different candidate in the primary, but they didn't. They were too cowardly, too focused on the next news cycle, too afraid of a mean tweet. And now they are stuck. They are stuck defending the indefensible. While the rest of the world looks on in horror and amusement, the leaks aren't just rocking the MAGA world. They are shattering the last remnants of the Republican Party's credibility on national security. And as someone who helped build that credibility, let me tell you, it is painful to watch, but it is necessary to see it burn so we can finally understand just how far we have fallen. Let's talk about the tape, shall we? Because nothing says stable genius quite like recording yourself committing a felony. In this business, there is an old saying, never write down what you can say and never say what you can nod to. But Donald, he not only says it, he says it into a microphone while waving the evidence around like a show and tell project at a kindergarten for aspiring autocrats. I have listened to the descriptions of that audio from Bedminster, and it is the single most damaging piece of political self-sabotage I have ever witnessed. And I have seen candidates implode in spectacular fashion, but this is special. Here you have the former president of the United States, a man who had the nuclear codes, sitting in a golf club in New Jersey, holding a classified document about attacking a foreign country, Iran, to be specific, and showing it to people who have absolutely no business seeing it. Writers, aides, whoever happened to be wandering through the club that day. And he is on tape literally admitting, I could have declassified it, but now I can't. Do you understand what that does to his defense? It takes a flamethrower to it. For months, his lawyers and the ones who haven't quit yet have been going on television and telling us, oh, he has a standing order, or he declassified it in his mind. And then here comes Donald on tape effectively saying, actually, that is all lies. I know this is secret. I know I shouldn't show you. But look at how cool it is. It is the hubris that kills you every time. It is the need to impress strangers, to show them that he is still the big man, the guy in charge, the guy with the secrets. He sold out national security for a cheap dopamine hit of validation from a couple of people working on a memoir. I have been in rooms where classified material is handled. Real classified material. You don't bring your phone. You don't bring your smartwatch. Sometimes you don't even bring a pen. You read it in a secure facility, you memorize what you need, and you leave it there. The idea that he was just casually flipping through war plans at a country club while servers were bringing in Diet Cokes and shrimp cocktails is a level of recklessness that is hard to comprehend even for him. It treats the lives of our service members, our intelligence assets, and our allies as props in the Donald Trump reality show. And the reaction from his camp when this tape leaked? Absolute chaos. You could practically hear the gears grinding in their heads as they tried to pivot. First, it was fake news. Then it was bravado. Remember that one? He actually tried to say, I didn't have a document, I was just bragging. Think about that. His defense is, I am a compulsive liar who pretends to have secrets to look cool. That is the best case scenario they can come up with. And frankly, it doesn't wash. The rustling of papers on that tape is the soundtrack of his legal peril. This leak destroys the victim narrative. It is hard to claim you are being persecuted by the deep state when the deep state didn't force you to hit record. The deep state didn't make you wave the document around. You did that. You did it to yourself. And that is the tragedy of the MAGA movement right now. They are being asked to go to the mat, to alienate their families, to lose their standing in their communities, all to defend a man who cannot stop incriminating himself because he loves the sound of his own voice too much. I look at the people around him in that room, the aides laughing nervously, the sycophants agreeing with him. They are complicit too. In a normal world, if someone pulls out a classified war plan in a golf club, you leave the room and you call the FBI. You don't giggle and say, wow, Mr. President, that's amazing. But the culture of Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster is a culture of total blind submission. You don't question the leader. You don't point out that he is committing a crime. You just smile and hope you are in the will. This tape is going to be played in a courtroom. It is going to be played on the news on a loop. And every time it plays, it chips away at the lie that this is a witch hunt. It makes it concrete. It makes it undeniable. And for the MAGA world, that is a rock they cannot lift. They can scream about the FBI. They can scream about the DOJ, but they cannot scream over the sound of Donald Trump's own voice admitting he broke the law. It is the ultimate betrayal of his supporters. He is asking them to fight a war for him that he has already surrendered on tape. And let me tell you, the prosecutors, they are salivating. Jack Smith isn't leaking this to be mean. This is coming out because the case is watertight. They have the receipts, they have the audio, they have the witnesses. And Donald knows it. That is why the lashing out is getting worse. That is why the rhetoric is getting more violent and more desperate. He is a rat in a trap, and the trap is made of his own words. In this town, we always say that it's not the crime that gets you, it's the cover-up. But with Donald Trump, it's usually the crime, the cover-up, the second crime you committed to fund the cover-up, and then the tweet admitting to all of it. And that brings me to the absolute tragic comedy of the box shell game. If the Bedminster tape was the smoking gun, the surveillance footage from Mar-a-Lago is the bullet hole in the foot. I want you to picture this scene. You are the former president of the United States. The Department of Justice has issued a subpoena. They want the classified documents back. A normal person, a sane person says, okay, here they are, and goes back to cheating at golf. But not Donald. No, he decides to turn Mar-a-Lago into a scene from a bad heist movie. He has his body man, a guy who served in the Navy, a guy who by all accounts was a decent, loyal valet, scurrying around moving boxes from storage rooms to bedrooms, from bathrooms to the ballroom, just to hide them from his own attorneys. Think about the level of paranoia required to do that. He wasn't just hiding them from the FBI. He was hiding them from the people he was paying $3,000 an hour to defend him. He wanted to look his own lawyer in the eye and say, I have nothing left, knowing full well that 40 boxes were stacked up next to his toiletry bag. That isn't legal strategy. That is pathology. It is a deep-seated need to deceive everyone around him to maintain control. And in doing so, he dragged a loyal employee right into the wood chipper. This is the part that makes my blood boil. I have worked with political aides my whole life. These are young people, often military or true believers, who just want to serve. And he took advantage of that loyalty. He directed this young man to commit felonies, to move evidence, to lie to the feds. He took a guy who should have had a bright future and turned him into a co-conspirator. It is the everything Trump touches dies rule in its purest form. He grinds people up like hamburger meat to patch the holes in his own sinking ship. And the genius of it all? He got caught by his own security cameras. The man is so obsessed with surveillance, with knowing who is coming and going, that he taped his own obstruction of justice. It is Shakespearean in its stupidity. The IT guy, the property manager, they all get sucked into this vortex. The special counsel didn't need to plant bugs. He just needed to ask for the DVR. When the leaks about the flooded server room came out, remember that? The pool drained into the server room right around the time the prosecutors wanted the footage. I laughed for 10 minutes straight. It is like something out of a direct-to-video mob movie. Oops, the pool flooded the evidence. Give me a break. The MAGA world reads these headlines, and they don't know what to do. They can defend a policy disagreement. They can even defend a little bit of brash rhetoric. But how do you defend a guy playing hide and seek with the FBI using boxes of nuclear secrets? It makes him look small. It makes him look guilty. Innocent people don't play three-card Monte with the National Archives. Innocent people don't ask their staff to delete server logs. These are the actions of a man who knows he has broken the law and is terrified of the consequences. And this is where the lashing out becomes truly dangerous. He knows the people around him, the valets, the IT guys, the maintenance workers, they are the weak links. They don't have millions of dollars. They don't have executive privilege. They are vulnerable. And the prosecutors are squeezing them. Donald knows this. So he attacks the prosecutors. He attacks the FBI. He tries to make it seem like they are the criminals for daring to ask why the pool boy is moving top secret documents at midnight. It reveals the utter hollowness of his America First slogan. It isn't America First. It is Donald First. Everyone else, the troops, the staff, the voters, the country itself is a distant second. He will let anyone take the fall for him. And as these details leak out, as the timeline of the obstruction becomes clear, it is getting harder for even his staunchest defenders to keep a straight face. They are being asked to believe that a massive conspiracy involving the DOJ, the FBI, National Archives, and the Biden administration was all orchestrated to frame him. Or just maybe the guy who has a history of not following rules didn't follow the rules. The walls are not just closing in, the floor is dropping out. The obstruction charge is the one that sends people to prison. It is clean. It is simple. Did you move the boxes after the subpoena? Yes. Did you lie about it? Yes. Is it on tape? Yes. Game over. And that realization is what is driving the panic we are seeing now. He can't tweet his way out of a time-stamped video file. If there is one thing Donald Trump hates more than a bad steak, it is a fight he cannot control. He wants a wrestling match. He wants to be in the ring, throwing folding chairs, screaming at the referee, feeding off the crowd's energy. He wants an opponent who will get down in the mud with him, someone he can bully, someone he can nickname, someone he can drag into the chaotic spectacle that is his entire existence. But in Jack Smith, he has found something he doesn't understand and doesn't know how to handle, a stone wall. I have been watching Donald's feed. It is a full-time job and a hazard to my mental health. But I do it so you don't have to, and the vitriol he is spewing at the special counsel is reaching a fever pitch. He calls him deranged. He attacks his wife. He calls him a thug. It is the playground insult comedy of a man who realizes the teacher isn't laughing anymore. And the reason he is lashing out so violently is precisely because Jack Smith isn't saying a word. This silence is driving Donald insane. He is used to the cable news cycle where every attack gets a counterattack, where every tweet gets a panel discussion. He feeds on that. It validates him. It makes him the center of attention. But the special counsel's office, they don't leak. They don't tweet. They don't go on Sunday shows. They speak in court filings. They speak in indictments. They speak in the language of the law, which is cold, precise, and immune to all caps ranting. And this dynamic is rocking the MAGA world because they don't know how to fight a ghost. They are out there trying to dig up dirt on the prosecutors, trying to create a narrative that this is a Biden hit job, but it isn't landing because the other side isn't engaging in the political theater. It is just the facts. Here are the documents. Here is the tape. Here is the obstruction. What is your answer? And because they don't have a legal answer, they resort to the only thing they have left: intimidation. Does it? Does it? Does it? This is the darkest part of the lashing out. When Donald posts the names of agents or attacks the families of prosecutors, he knows exactly what he is doing. He is painting a target on their backs. He is engaging in a form of stochastic terror, winding up the most unstable elements of his base and pointing them like a loaded weapon at the institutions of justice. I saw this during the 2020 election aftermath, and I see it now. He is willing to burn down the safety of public servants just to save his own skin. It is a profound mistreatment of the power of his platform. But here is the catch. It's not working the way it used to. Sure, the diehards are riled up, but the broader public, they look at a guy screaming at a prosecutor and they don't see strength. They see fear. They see a mob boss who knows the wiretap caught everything. The MAGA influencers are trying to amplify his attacks, screaming about tyranny and weaponization. But it feels tired. It feels repetitive. How many worst injustices in history can you have in one lifetime? At a certain point, the boy who cried witch hunt gets eaten by the wolf, and the villagers just keep plowing the fields. I also notice the fear in the Republican leadership when this happens. They know Jack Smith is serious. They know the evidence is overwhelming. And when Trump demands they defund the DOJ or attack the FBI, they squirm. They know that is a bridge too far for the suburban voters they desperately need to win back. They are caught between a rock and a hard place, defend the indefensible and lose the general election, or stay silent and get destroyed by Trump in the primary. So they freeze, they issue mealy-mouthed statements, they try to hide. The leak of the indictment details, specifically the sheer scope of what he took nuclear capabilities, vulnerability points of the U.S. and its allies, has stripped away the political persecution veneer for anyone paying attention. You can't spend nuclear secrets. You can't spend the safety of the American people. And Donald knows this. That is why the attacks on Smith are getting so personal. He has to destroy the messenger because the message is fatal to his political future. It is an asymmetric war. Trump is fighting with noise. Smith is fighting with paper. And in the federal court system, paper wins. Noise might win a primary. Noise might sell red hats. But noise does not get a motion to dismiss granted. And as the reality of that sinks in, as the realization hits that he is actually going to have to sit in a courtroom and listen to the evidence against him, the lashing out will only get worse. He is a cornered animal, and he is going to bite anything that gets close, including the hand that feeds him. The MAGA movement is being dragged into a legal buzzsaw, and their leader is the one pushing them into the blades. You have to understand the ecosystem that keeps this whole circus running. I'm talking about the green rooms, the producers, the cable news hosts, who have mortgage payments on Hampton's houses that depend entirely on keeping the outrage machine fueled. For years, they had it easy. The formula was simple. Donald says something crazy, the liberals freak out, and the right-wing media says, look at how triggered the snowflakes are. It was a perpetual motion machine of grievance. It didn't matter if it was true. It didn't matter if it was coherent. It just had to be loud. But this classified documents leak has jammed the gears. I watch these folks, people I used to work with, people I used to drink with, and I see the panic in their eyes. They are trying to run the old plays. They are trying to scream, but her emails! Or what about the garage? But deep down, they know the difference. They know that a few stray papers are not the same thing as boxes of the highest level intelligence secrets stored in a bathroom accessible to anyone with a pool pass. They are trying to equate a jaywalking ticket with a bank robbery, and the audience isn't quite buying it the way they used to. I talked to producers off the record because, let's be honest, in this town, the truth is only spoken when the red light is off, and they are exhausted. They are tired of the mental gymnastics. Imagine waking up every morning, looking at the rundown, and realizing your job for the next 3 hours is to explain to millions of people why it is perfectly fine for a former president to show war plans to a random writer who didn't even have a clearance. It takes a toll on the soul. It degrades you. It turns you into a caricature. And eventually, you start to hate the man who puts you in that position. The cracks are showing. You see it when a host snaps at a guest who brings up the indictment details. You see it in the desperate pivot to culture war nonsense. Don't look at the espionage charges. Look over here. A beer company sent a can to a trans person. It is the strategy of a magician who has run out of tricks and is just throwing smoke bombs at the audience, hoping they don't notice the rabbit died in the hat. The MAGA media complex is built on the idea that Donald Trump is invincible. He is the smartest guy in the room, the 4D chess master. But these leaks paint a picture of a man who is sloppy, reckless, and frankly, kind of a hoarder. It is not the image of a strong man. It is the image of a chaotic mess. And that is hard to sell. It is hard to sell Make America Great Again when the leader of the movement is treating America's secrets like bathroom reading material. I also think about the young staffers in these media organizations. They are watching their bosses twist themselves into pretzels, and they are learning the wrong lessons. They are learning that truth doesn't matter, that integrity is for suckers, and that the only thing that counts is the ratings point. It is a corruption of the entire conservative movement, a hollowing out of what we used to stand for. We used to be the adults in the room. Now, we are the ones throwing a tantrum because we got caught with our hand in the cookie jar, except the cookie jar is full of nuclear codes. And let's not forget the sheer stupidity of the defenses they are floating. He was too busy to sort the boxes. Really? He had time to play golf 300 days a year, but he didn't have time to separate his golf shirts from the Iran war plans? The GSA packed the boxes. Okay, but who refused to give them back for 18 months? Who defied the subpoena? The excuses are insulting to the intelligence of the voters. And while the diehard base will swallow anything, the independent voters, the ones who decide elections, are looking at this and shaking their heads. They see a man who thinks the rules don't apply to him, and they are tired of the drama. The silence from the serious legal minds on the right is also telling. You don't see the top-tier conservative constitutional lawyers rushing to TV to defend this. You see the D-list, the grifters, the ones who are auditioning for a pardon or a show on a streaming network nobody watches. The smart money stays away from this radioactive mess because they know the law. They know that under the Espionage Act, intent doesn't even always matter. But here you have intent in spades. You have obstruction. You have a cover-up. It is a legal nightmare, and no amount of shouting on cable news can change the statutes. So the MAGA world rocks and reels. They are angry, yes, but underneath the anger is a creeping realization that this time is different. The Teflon is scratched. The armor is dented. And the man they pinned all their hopes on is dragging them down into a legal quagmire that has no bottom. They are lashed to the mast of a sinking ship, cheering for the captain as he drills holes in the hull. I want to take a moment to talk about something that gets lost in the noise of rallies and truth social rants. The absolute terrifying silence of the legal profession when it comes to Donald Trump. I am not talking about the TV lawyers who shout for a living. I am talking about the serious people, the white shoe firms in D, C, and New York, the people who handle real crises for real billionaires. They wouldn't touch this case with a 10-foot pole made of uranium. And do you know why? Because Donald Trump has achieved something almost impossible in the history of American jurisprudence. He has pierced his own attorney-client privilege, not because of a mistake, but because he used his lawyers to commit a crime. This is the crime fraud exception. In the legal world, this is the nuclear option. It means a judge looked at the evidence and said, you are not using this lawyer to defend yourself. You are using him to help you break the law. And because of that, the lawyer has to talk. Evan Corcoran, his own attorney, had to go in front of a grand jury and testify about what Donald told him. He had to hand over his notes, his audio notes. Think about the level of betrayal that requires you hire a guy to save you, and you lie to him so much and manipulate him so thoroughly that the court turns him into the star witness against you. I have spent decades working with politicians who get into trouble. And usually the lawyer is the priest. You tell the lawyer everything. You tell them where the bodies are buried so they can help you keep the shovel hidden. But Donald, he treats his lawyers like he treats his contractors. He lies to them. He doesn't pay them. And then he blames them when the building falls down. He hid the documents from the very person whose job was to tell the FBI, we have looked everywhere. He set his own counsel up to file a false certification to the Department of Justice. This is why the MAGA world is rocking. It is not just the leak of the documents. It is the leak of the process. It is the realization that there is no one left to defend him who knows what they are doing. He is scraping the bottom of the barrel. He is hiring lawyers who specialize in parking tickets and insurance claims to fight the most sophisticated federal prosecution team in the country. And the results speak for themselves. The lashing out you see, that is the rage of a man who realizes he has burned every bridge that could have led him to safety. I also want to touch on the body man situation again, because it breaks my heart in a way. This young valet, he is a symptom of the disease. In Trump's world, loyalty is defined by how much liability you are willing to absorb for the boss. It is a one-way street. He demands you put your head in the noose so he can use your shoulders to climb a little higher. And when the feds come knocking, do you think Donald is going to say, leave the kid alone, it was my idea? Absolutely not. He will say, I barely knew him, he was just a coffee boy, while the kid faces 20 years for obstruction. The Republican establishment sees this. The donors see this. I talk to these guys at the clubs, at the steakhouses. They whisper. They say, Rick, it's a disaster. He's going to drag the whole ticket down. But then they write the check. They write the check because they are cowards. They are afraid of the mean tweets. They are afraid of the base. They are afraid that if they cut him off, he will burn the whole party down out of spite. And they are right. He will burn it down. He is already burning it down. But instead of grabbing a fire extinguisher, they are throwing cash on the flames, hoping it will smother the fire. It is madness. The classified documents case is the stress test that the GOP is failing. It strips away the law and order mask and reveals the ugly truth underneath. It is a cult of personality where the leader can do no wrong, even when he is caught on tape waving nuclear secrets around like a party favor. The cognitive dissonance required to support this is breaking people's brains. You can see it in the polls. The hardcore base digs in, but the soft support is eroding. The people who just want lower taxes and less regulation look at this clown show and say, I can't do 4 more years of this. I just can't. And let me tell you, Jack Smith knows this. He isn't playing to the base. He is playing to the jury. And juries are funny things. They don't care about your Truth Social posts. They don't care about your rallies. They care about the evidence. And when they see the photos of boxes on the stage, boxes in the bathroom, boxes spilling out onto the floor, when they hear the audio of him bragging about the secrets, when they read the texts from the employees talking about moving the boxes to hide them, it is going to be a very short deliberation. The panic in Trump's circle is real because for the first time, they are up against a system they cannot bully, buy, or lie their way out of. The federal court system is a machine. It eats facts and spits out verdicts, and Donald has fed it a banquet of incriminating evidence. The lashing out is just the sound of the gears grinding him up. I want to take you into a world that Donald Trump has never understood and will never respect. The world of human intelligence. I have friends in this world. I have friends who have spent their careers in dusty, dangerous corners of the globe, meeting contacts in back alleys, building trust over years, risking their lives to get a single scrap of information that keeps this country safe. It is a lonely, terrifying, and vital job. And when you look at those boxes stacked in a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago, you aren't just looking at paper. You are looking at the names of people who trusted the United States to protect them. This is the part that makes the deep state rhetoric so infuriating. To Donald, the intelligence community is just another political enemy to be crushed. He thinks the CIA and the FBI exist to serve him personally, like his private security guards. But these are professionals who have taken an oath to the Constitution, not to a man. And when they see a former president treating their hard-won secrets like party favors, it cuts them to the bone. It isn't a conspiracy against him. It is a collective gasp of horror from people who know that sources dry up and assets disappear when Washington can't keep a secret. I'm hearing from folks in the national security apparatus, retired guys, mostly because the active ones can't talk and they are apoplectic. They are telling me that the damage done here is incalculable. It's not just about what was in the boxes, it's about the signal it sends to our allies. Think about the Five Eyes, our closest intelligence partners. The Brits, the Canadians, the Australians, the Kiwis. Do you think they want to share their most sensitive data with us if they think it's going to end up in a cardboard box next to a photocopier in a Florida resort? Absolutely not. This leak rocks the MAGA world because it exposes the fundamental unseriousness of their leader on the global stage. They want to believe he is a strongman who commands respect. But in the intelligence world, he is viewed as a security risk. He is viewed as a loose cannon who cannot be trusted with the keys to the car. And that is why the lashing out is so focused on discrediting these institutions. He has to convince his followers that the spies are the bad guys, because if they realize the spies are just trying to keep the country from getting blown up, the whole narrative falls apart. There is also a darker question that I ask myself, and it is a question that makes me uncomfortable, but it has to be asked. Why did he keep them? Why fight so hard for these specific documents? We know he is transactional. We know he views everything through the lens of profit and leverage. Was he keeping them as souvenirs? Maybe. That is the charitable interpretation. But was he keeping them to trade? Was he keeping them to show off to the Saudis or the Russians? When you deal with a man who has no moral center, you have to consider the possibility that these secrets were inventory in his mind. And that thought should send a chill down the spine of every American, regardless of who you voted for. The MAGA ecosystem tries to laugh this off. They post memes They say, oh, everyone takes work home. But let me tell you, when I worked in the Pentagon, if I took work home, that was marked top secret, SCI. I wouldn't be writing books and going on TV. I would be in a federal prison making license plates. The double standard they cry about does exist, but it exists in his favor. He has been given more grace, more time, and more chances to do the right thing than any citizen in the history of this republic. And he spat in their faces every single time. This specific leak, the one detailing the Iranian attack plans, is particularly damning because it shows he wasn't just hoarding random memos. He was hoarding war plans. He was holding on to the options that a future president might need. He was effectively stealing the playbook of the United States military. And for what? To settle a score, to prove a point to a general he didn't like. It is the height of pettiness. He risked the safety of the nation to win a petty argument that nobody else even knew was happening. I see the surrogates on television trying to pivot away from this. They want to talk about the Presidential Records Act, which is a civil statute and has nothing to do with the Espionage Act. They are throwing sand in the eyes of the public, hoping to blind them to the reality of the crimes. But the indictment cuts through the sand. It lays out the timeline. It lays out the intent. And it shows a man who was given every opportunity to return the documents and walk away, but chose conflict instead. He chose this fight. I want you to remember that. He could have given the boxes back in January. He could have given them back in June. He could have let his lawyers do a full search. He didn't. He lied. He hid them. He obstructed. He chose to put himself in the crosshairs of the Department of Justice because his ego could not handle the idea of complying with a rule. And now, as the consequences of that choice come crashing down, he is screaming unfair like a toddler who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. But this isn't a cookie jar. It's the crown jewels of American national security, and the MAGA world is slowly, painfully realizing that their emperor has no clothes, just a lot of stolen boxes. I want to talk about the hostage situation that is currently taking place inside the Republican Party. And make no mistake, it is a hostage situation. Donald Trump has strapped a suicide vest to the GOP, and he is standing there with his thumb on the detonator, daring anyone to make a sudden move. This classified documents leak and the subsequent meltdown has made the terms of the hostage negotiation crystal clear. Either you destroy the American justice system to save me, or I will destroy your political career. I watch these other candidates, the ones who thought they could slide into his lane, the ones who thought they could be Trump without the baggage, and it is pathetic. They are paralyzed. When the news of the indictment dropped, when the pictures of the boxes hit the wires, what did they do? Did they seize the moment? Did they stand up and say, this is disqualifying? A man who steals nuclear secrets cannot be commander-in-chief? No. They rushed to Twitter to defend him. They attacked the prosecutor. They attacked the DOJ. They effectively acted as his defense attorneys pro bono. And why? Because they are terrified of the base. They know that Donald has radicalized the primary voters to such an extent that any criticism of him is seen as treason. He has created a purity spiral where the only metric that matters is absolute, unquestioning fealty to the leader. It doesn't matter if you are conservative. It doesn't matter if you voted for his policies. If you don't say that the Espionage Act is a weaponized witch hunt, you are a rhino. You are the enemy. This is the genius of his lashing out. By screaming, they are coming for you, he forces every other Republican to agree with him or risk looking like they are on the side of the deep state. He has nationalized his personal legal problems. He has made his felony charges a plank of the Republican platform. Think about how insane that is. The party of Lincoln, the party of Reagan, is now the party of let him keep the boxes. But here is the rub. And this is what keeps the consultants drinking at the Capitol Grill until closing time. They know this is a general election killer. They know that you cannot win a national election in this country by running against the rule of law. You cannot win the swing states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, by promising to pardon a guy who obstructed justice on tape. The suburban moms in Philadelphia, the independent dads in Phoenix, they are not in the cult. They see the chaos. They see the instability, and they want no part of it. So the GOP is stuck in a doom loop. To win the primary, they have to embrace the crazy. They have to promise to burn down the FBI. But to win the general, they need to be sane, and you cannot do both. Donald has made sure of that. He has removed the off-ramp by lashing out so violently, by drawing such a hard line in the sand. He has forced the party to choose between him and reality. And tragically, they are choosing him. I also want to point out the financial aspect of this grift because it is staggering. The Save America PAC, the fundraising emails, the merchandise, it is a vacuum cleaner sucking up every available dollar in the conservative movement. And where is that money going? Is it going to ads in swing states? Is it going to ground game operations? Is it going to ballot harvesting? No. It is going to lawyers. It is going to expert witnesses. It is going to the legal defense of a billionaire who claims he is worth $10 billion. He is bleeding the party dry. The state parties are broke. The RNC is struggling. The small dollar donors, the grandmas sending in $10 from their Social Security checks, their money isn't fighting socialism, it's fighting Jack Smith. It is the greatest mistreatment of donor trust in political history. And yet, the grift goes on. He lashes out. He claims persecution. The money flows in. And the lawyers buy new boats. The MAGA world is being rocked by this because deep down, they sense the weakness. Strong leaders don't need to beg for money to stay out of jail. Strong leaders don't need to threaten their own party to keep them in line. This behavior, the screaming, the threats, the endless victimhood, it reeks of desperation. It is the behavior of a man who knows the walls are not just closing in, but that they are made of concrete and steel this time. And as the trial dates get closer, as the motions are filed, as the reality of the courtroom sets in, the lashing out will become even more unhinged. He will try to provoke a constitutional crisis. He will try to incite civil unrest because he has no other card to play. He has burned the rule book. He has burned the party. And now he is standing in the ashes, holding a box of secrets, wondering why the smoke is choking him. The tragedy is that he is determined to take the rest of us down with him. I have to laugh, a bitter, cynical laugh, mind you, when I hear the MAGA chorus screaming about a two-tiered justice system. They are shouting it from the rooftops. They are printing it on T-shirts. They are making it the chyron on every primetime segment on Fox News. Two-tiered justice, weaponized DOJ, banana republic. And the irony is, they are absolutely right. There is a two-tiered justice system in this country, but it doesn't work the way they think it does. It works entirely in Donald Trump's favor. If you or I, regular citizens, or even a mid-level bureaucrat at the State Department had done 1/10 of what Donald Trump did, we wouldn't be out on bail. We wouldn't be flying on private jets to campaign rallies. We would be in a federal holding cell, wearing an orange jumpsuit, waiting for a court-appointed attorney to tell us to plead guilty and beg for mercy. The fact that he was allowed to negotiate for a year, that the archives asked nicely, that the DOJ sent a subpoena before they sent a search warrant, that is the special treatment. He got the platinum concierge service of criminal justice, and he still managed to spit in the waiter's face. But the MAGA world relies on this false equivalency. It is the only life raft they have left. They cling to the Biden documents or the Pence documents like drowning men clutching a piece of driftwood. What about the Corvette in the garage? They scream. And sure, optically, it's a mess. But legally, it's night and day. And deep down, even the hacks on television know it. Biden's team found the stuff, called the archives, and gave it back. Pence's team found the stuff, called the archives, and gave it back. That is what normal people do. That is what people who aren't trying to hide crimes do. Donald, he took the boxes. He refused to give them back. He lied about having them. He had his lawyers lie about having them. He moved them to hide them. He showed them to people. He defied a grand jury subpoena. That is the difference. It is the difference between accidentally walking out of a store with a candy bar in your pocket and backing a truck through the front window to loot the register. One is a mistake, the other is a felony. And the fact that his defenders are pretending not to see this distinction is an insult to everyone's intelligence. I watch the MAGA influencers, the guys with the podcasts and the Substacks who have monetized this outrage, and they are working overtime. They are sweating. They have to keep the anger levels high, because if the anger drops, the donations drop. They have to convince their audience that Donald is a martyr, a political prisoner, a victim of a vast conspiracy. Because if they admit that he is just a sloppy, arrogant man who broke the law, the entire fantasy world they have built collapses. The deep state narrative is the load-bearing wall of the MAGA cathedral. If you pull it out, the roof comes down on everyone's head. And let's be honest about the lashing out we are seeing from Mar-a-Lago. It is performative, yes, but it is also calculated. He wants to delegitimize the institutions so that when the verdict comes, he can say it doesn't count. He is poisoning the jury pool. He is poisoning the public discourse. He is telling his followers that the law is illegitimate if it applies to him. This is dangerous stuff. This is how you break a democracy. You don't break it with tanks. You break it by convincing half the country that the rules are rigged and the referees are cheaters. I also find it fascinating how he drags everyone down with him in this victim narrative. He expects the entire Republican Party to stand in the dock with him. He expects the Speaker of the House to defund the prosecutors. He expects senators to block appointments. He is demanding that the entire legislative branch of the United States government become a subsidiary of the Trump legal defense team. And the terrifying part is many of them are saying, yes, sir. How high should we jump? It creates a zombie party, a party that cannot think for itself, cannot act for itself, and has no agenda other than save Donald. I talk to donors who are furious about this. They want to win. They want to beat the Democrats. They want tax cuts. But they see their money being set on fire to pay for a legal battle that is ultimately about one man's vanity and recklessness. They see the opportunity cost. Every hour spent defending the boxes in the bathroom is an hour not spent attacking the opposition on the economy or the border. It is political malpractice on a grand scale. The leaks are the reality check. They are the cold splash of water. The indictment isn't a tweet. It isn't a campaign speech. It is a set of facts that have to be proven in court. And when you read the details, the text messages between employees, the audio transcripts, the photos, it becomes very hard to maintain the witch hunt facade. The witch hunt didn't pack the boxes. The witch hunt didn't tell the lawyer to pluck out the bad docs. You did that, Donald. You did that. And that is why the lashing out is getting so shrill. He knows the whataboutism is running out of gas. He knows the two-tier justice line works at a rally, but it doesn't work in a motion to dismiss. He is realizing that he is trapped in a room with the consequences of his own actions. And for a man who has lived a life without consequences, that is the most terrifying place in the world to be. The MAGA world is rocking because the foundation, the idea that he is untouchable, is cracking right before their eyes.